Good evening, New Mexico. I'm Lori Walden, President and General Manager of KOAT. It's my pleasure to introduce tonight's special program highlighting 7 decades of coverage we've shared with you. We are taking you on a journey to show you how local news developed and how it impacted our lives. We'll remind you of all of the big stories we've experienced through the years and how the technology we use to bring it to you has changed. But one thing hasn't changed: our promise to you. Bringing coverage you can count on. The power of local journalism and local television keeps us connected, informed, educated, and engaged.
For 70 years, you've led us into your homes.
From our first local news broadcast to the decade that brought the world to a halt.
We have been there bringing you vital information.
Over time, there have been many different faces on your screens.
Tonight, we're taking you through the decades.
Looking back at the most impactful and memorable moments.
Sharing stories from the people who brought you that coverage.
And learning what it meant for them to keep you informed.
From unprecedented moments in national history
to events that launched our state into the national spotlight.
This is KOAT, 70 years through the decades.
Thank you for joining us tonight as we celebrate 70 years.
Before KOAT was showing up on boxes like these, we were already informing all of you.
That's right, through radio. That was the major broadcast source in the 1920s.
By the 50s, TV stations were popping up nationwide. Here in Albuquerque, KOAT was looking to get into television, applying to broadcast on Channel 13, but later changed to Channel 7. After months of fighting with other interested broadcasters, they secured their license, a studio was built, and they were ready to start bringing new programs to the area, until an equipment setback caused a delay. Finally, on October 2nd, 1953, KOAT hit the air for the first time.
This is ABC, the American Broadcasting Company.
The first show to air on KOAT was a Western called Range Rider, followed by a college football game recap, and a talk show featuring Gloria Swanson, a popular actress at the time. Then the 1947 film Intrigue. Our first newscast, anchored by Dick Lewis, aired from 11 to 11:15 p.m. You heard that right, 15 minutes of news. Compare that to the 42 newscasts and almost 42 hours of news we do each week now.
It's not hard to imagine. Film archives from that first decade are hard to come by.
And many people from that time aren't around anymore.
We did speak with some of KOAT's broadcast pioneers from the 1960s who laid the foundation for local news in New Mexico. A decade filled with turmoil, from war in Southeast Asia, protests here at home, including a fight for civil rights, and the emergence of rock music and psychedelic drugs. The 60s ending with a music festival called Woodstock. It was a period of change, and here in Albuquerque, KOAT was evolving, building a stronger news team and focusing more resources on the effort to inform New Mexicans.
Went to work there in June of 1962.
Late in '64.
George Morrison called me one day while I was going to the University of New Mexico and said, Roger, would you like to go to work at the TV station? I took that job part-time, covering car wrecks and fires and all kinds of stuff like that.
So 5 of us were in the news department for several years.
Just 5 people covering an entire state, a much different time in the news business.
John, this is George. I'm going to be coming in for just a few minutes. Anything going on so far this morning? Over.
And we all had to be able to shoot, and we all had to be able to write.
It was a tight team at Channel 7. Everyone had multiple talents, everyone contributing to help put the newscast on for the nights.
It was common in those days for the newscaster to be the news director too. So he kind of oversaw everything.
It is our responsibility to provide good news coverage of the events which occurred within our own region.
We would write the story if it was the car wreck or the meeting, and then he would write the general news coverage.
Good evening, everyone. This is George Morrison with the 6 o'clock report.
The 60s, truly a period of growth for KOAT.
That was really a tiny space there in Nob Hill. I mean, the studio was as big as this living room. And then there was a control room and then a few offices, and that was the extent of the station.
A new building was built, and the station moved from its original location near Central and Tulane to University Boulevard, doubling in size.
It was a great facility. It was actually built to be a TV station. It was fun to be there because the studio was right off the newsroom, and it was easy to work with. And the Channel 7 location was good because it was not downtown, and we had easier access to get around around the city. And I liked that place. It was modern, it was new.
This is where we centralize our operations here in the newsroom at KOAT TV.
And that's where they shot that BBC documentary. They had these 6 or 7 different programs called Inside America. And the one that they decided to do on television was at KOAT.
You all ready?
On the tape, you hear George Morrison say they're talking about Winston Churchill's funeral.
The death of Sir Winston Churchill, although expected for more than a week now, shook all sections of the world this morning.
They were just amazed about how a local television station in Albuquerque worked.
Good evening, this is George Morrison with the 10 o'clock report.
Covering some of the most impactful moments in the U.S., like the election of President Kennedy.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
He even made a trip to New Mexico.
I have a picture of myself covering it. He came out to see the rover project. And the rover was a nuclear-powered rocket. The thing I remember is that was just all craziness, Secret Service and ramming and trying to keep out of the way and all that. But then he went to White Sands, and that was all behind closed doors. Came in to see all the rockets that we were developing, and they set them all off in 20 minutes. It was quite a wonderful fireworks display.
Tragically, President Kennedy was assassinated just months later. Just one example of the decade filled with turbulence.
Part of that era was, civil rights nationally, and here in New Mexico, the civil rights movement was largely focused on the land grant movement.
Rey López Tijerina, the Alianza, the brown people, the Indo-Hispano.
He's sort of a mystery figure. He was an evangelist, he was very fiery, great speaker in Spanish and in English, very charismatic guy.
Reyes Lopez Tijerina was seen differently by many. Some viewed him as a civil rights activist. Others blame him for some of the violence in northern New Mexico.
I would call that man somebody in the category of an enemy of the United States, an enemy of law and order.
It had been simmering for over 100 years and is still simmering today. When the Americans came in the late 1840s, they brought a whole different system of government with them, much different than the traditional Hispanic and then later Mexican laws. And the grants were granted some to individuals, but mostly to communities. If you live up there and your family's lived on that land forever, all of a sudden now, you can't go gather firewood, or you can't graze your stock, or you can't do those kind of things.
By 1967, they had enough.
He decided to go up and have this showdown in Tierra Maria.
That afternoon of June 5th, 1967, they attacked the courthouse.
Their goal, capture the district attorney, free jailed Alianza members, and raise awareness for their movement.
We're sitting there in the newsroom. We hear the call on the state police radio saying 10:33, which means there's an emergency going on. And we heard him talk about a raid at the courthouse. So I turned to other people in the newsroom, I says, we got to go.
And we flew through this thunderstorm going up the road to Cuba. And we get up there, and that's all hell had broken loose. The state police, and I think the National Guard too, and the local cops were all just descended on the place, and people were being arrested and handcuffed and hauled off. And it was a major confrontation.
In the chaos, a jail guard was shot and a sheriff's deputy injured.
I shot an interview with the sheriff, gave the film back to the JP, who took the film back to the pilot who stayed with the airplane in Chama and flew the film back to Albuquerque, and we had it on the news that night at 6 o'clock. Had to be the quickest turnover of an interview from 350 miles away. In 1967, this is unheard of.
Tijerina escaped, leading to a massive manhunt. He was found and surrendered, spending 2 years behind bars.
Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Closing out the decade in the summer of '69, a huge moment in history and broadcast television.
The Eagle has landed.
It was wonderful. It was a cool event, and I think everybody, except for the people who think it was fake, everybody thought that was a great achievement.
Well, I was amazed at the way they had a camera, and that was fascinating that they had figured all this out.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
More than 650 million people were glued to their televisions as astronauts set foot on the moon for the very first time.
Like much of the high desert of the United States.
At the time becoming the most watched event in TV history.
I was just riveted to it. You know, it just was astounding to me.
So much history packed into KOAT's first full decade.
The next 10 years, no different. By the 1970s, the Vietnam conflict was reaching its boiling point.
There were literally riots.
You weren't going to stop these young people from doing this stuff, and we had to go cover it.
And a scandal in U.S. political history.
You were here to say goodbye to us,
leading to a new focus on coverage for our viewers.
Disco balls and bell-bottom pants.
Mind-blowing special effects debut in a new film called Star Wars.
And the launch of the shuttle program allowing us to venture farther into space.
The 1970s were a period of change and advancement, and in New Mexico, that was no different. The community was growing. A huge boom in construction would lead to Albuquerque's modern skyline. New housing developments broke ground on the west side and what would become Taylor Ranch in Rio Rancho. And computers were getting their start. Bill Gates and Paul Allen developed the software company Microsoft in Albuquerque in 1975. Still, much of the social disorder from the previous decade was spilling over into the 70s.
When Nixon sent troops into Cambodia,
Anti-war demonstrations erupted across the country.
Young people didn't want to be drafted. They didn't want to go fight in a war where tens of thousands of Americans were dying, and they didn't think the war was justified.
Many of the protests against the war in Vietnam were happening on college campuses, some turning violent. That's what happened at the University of New Mexico in 1970. Former KOAT reporter Jim Baca covered the chaos.
One day we got gassed pretty bad by the National Guard. And so we ran into the journalism building to wash our eyes out, ran back outside.
Meanwhile, Dick Kniffing found himself in the center of the action.
I went to the university in the mornings, and I'm in the class one morning, and the campus was in turmoil.
The violence impacting another local journalist.
The reporter got bayoneted by National Guard members from down in Hobbs who they brought up here. It was really scary, and it was very upsetting to see the country being torn apart by that war.
President Nixon also at the center of one of the most notable events in the 70s.
I had no prior knowledge of the Watergate break-in.
Was Nixon and Watergate and politics and all that? It was very, there was a much more intense interest in that then.
I did the news the night of what was called the Saturday Night Massacre, when President Nixon fired a bunch of his legal help at the Attorney General's office and everything, because they were going to pursue charges against him.
I shall resign the presidency effective at noon tomorrow.
The biggest story in the country also had ties to New Mexico.
I got to go to Washington, D.C. to cover the Watergate hearings because U.S. Senator Joseph Montoya was one of the members of the Watergate Committee.
The president's pledge for a more intense follow-up on Watergate was not as good a performance as his Checker speech in 1952.
And we thought that having somebody from New Mexico participate was important historically and politically.
Realizing the importance of stories like Watergate, KOAT developed a new team.
The thrust that Channel 7 took in those years, and that really helped to build our news reputation, to build our base, and to gave us a competitive edge. We were much more into politics, and we covered elections really well.
I was probably the first assigned TV reporter to cover the state legislature.
Now that you've had a chance to see what the legislature did do for public school finance, what is the situation in the schools across the state?
And we would shoot film of happenings at the state capitol, and then we would drive halfway to Albuquerque. I'd bring the film down that far, and some car would come up from Albuquerque from the newsroom, and the film would be on its way to the lab and to be processed and to get on the air that night.
Crime in Albuquerque also very much a problem during this time.
One of the interesting things is that the crime rate in Albuquerque has always been very high. In fact, back when I was a reporter, it was higher than it is now, believe it or not. And that's because of the drug trade.
Receiving a lot of attention because of their influence on young people.
Well, the drug use in this country in the last 8 years really has come about partly because of the lifestyle of dress and beads and the Beatles and their songs.
At a time crime fighting was needed, police in Albuquerque were demanding higher pay.
The police strike was a big deal because imagine officers actually striking. So they were on strike. They were on the picket lines versus being out on the patrol and helping the citizens.
After 10 days, a deal was reached, laying the groundwork for better communication between the city and police.
On Your Behalf presents Crime Stoppers.
In 1976, an influential crime-fighting tool got its start at KOAT.
A gas station attendant, a young fellow by the name of Michael Carmen. He was killed in an armed robbery.
A detective asked the station to produce reenactments of crime, hoping it would lead to tips so they could make arrests.
The young victim is taken to a dirt road in the South Valley.
It worked. A phone call came in that helped solve the murder. Now Crime Stoppers is an international organization. As more people were arrested and convicted, the state penitentiary became overcrowded and understaffed.
Prisoners also claiming they were abused.
And just 1 month into 1980, the breaking point.
Inmates rose up, resulting in the deadliest prison riot in U.S. history.
I knew we were sitting on a time bomb. I knew eventually that it was going to blow up.
My phone rang at about 4 o'clock in the morning, and it was the assignment editor saying, Mary Lynn, put the rollers in your hair, you're going to the state penitentiary. There's an uprising of some sort. Get up there. So up I went, and I was one of the first reporters there, and then all hell broke loose.
Our team first to detail the aftermath.
If you cooperate with officials, if you're an informant, if you're a snitch, you are in danger of your life. 33 inmates lost theirs.
That went on for like 33 hours. It was cold, it was confusing, it was high stress, trying to figure out fact from fiction, informing the public, a lot of concerned people. You can't do nothing. You could see flames coming out, smoke billowing.
These were the scenes that were later unveiled. Blood everywhere, signs of systematic torture, indications of savage murders.
I still have those images in my mind. First of all, we were walking through water because there was a lot of flooding, some blood. I'll never forget going through cell block 4 because that's where the people that were snitches were held. And that's where most of the brutality happened, where you could see where the acetylene torch had gone through bar by bar by bar. You could see where people were pushed against the wall, and you could feel the horror in cell block 4.
The violence was so horrific. What was done to guards, what was done to other inmates, you don't even want to think about. And the prison system at that time obviously was a major focus because of the prison riot that Mary Lynn Roper had covered with such distinction.
The story played out in the news for years.
33 inmates were dead, and then there were obviously many, many lawsuits after that.
I recall going to the courthouse and having to listen to some of the testimony about what had been done to a prison guard.
And then there was the administrative side of it, and that is, how do we change the prison system?
I do know that more programs for the inmates, more educational opportunities were offered as a result. There were more opportunities to get out of the maximum security prison into, say, a medium security facility.
There were also multiple prison breaks in the decade, the most bizarre involving a helicopter. Beverly Shoemaker forced the pilot to land in the state prison yard to bust out her boyfriend and 2 other inmates. Sky 7 captured the 2-hour-long chase. All of the inmates were captured.
There were some very serious stories in the 80s, and one of them that just devastated me and a lot of people was the murder of Linda Lee Daniels. She was bringing groceries into the house in the Northeast Heights. She was abducted off the front lawn.
Underneath this one-lane bridge, they discovered the body of Linda Daniels. There was 1 gunshot wound to the head. Her body had lain here for 1 week.
There was a loss of innocence almost for a lot of people because, yes, you knew there was crime, but it was just shocking that you can't even show up with your groceries and walk into your house and be safe.
Johnny Zinn and Wallace Pierce were convicted, given life sentences. 2 others cut deals in exchange for testimony against Zinn. Another high-profile case, the murder of Cindy Ray. The pregnant mother was forced into a car and driven to the East Mountains before being strangled.
The baby had been taken from Mrs. Ray's dead body by means of a crude cesarean-type
operation.
The baby was cut out, I believe, using a key.
Cindy bled to death.
Who could do this to another human being?
Darcy Pierce took the baby to the hospital claiming she had just given birth, but doctors did not believe her story and called police. Pierce was convicted of murder and sentenced to life in prison. Fortunately, the baby survived.
This is Action News at 6 from TV7, viewed in more homes than any other newscast on any other station in New Mexico.
In 1979, KOAT hit its stride, introducing the first weeknight co-anchor team.
Johnny will share the anchor desk with one of Albuquerque's brightest TV journalists, Mary Lynn Roper.
I'm very proud to say that with Johnny Morris, Howard Morgan, Jim Boggio, myself, we were not only the #1 anchor team in New Mexico, but we were often the #1 ABC affiliate late night news.
Dominating the ratings for 6 years.
I'm Mary Lynn Roper.
I'm Johnny Morris. From all of us on the Action News team, we hope you have a good night and thanks for your company.
During that time, KOAT also moved to its third and current location at Carlisle and Comanche.
And there was all this celebration in the front parking lot, and it was exciting. There was, proclamations, and we thought we had we had arrived.
The location, state-of-the-art, bigger studios, more workspace, and
it was designed so that Sky 7 could have a home there.
The only on-site helicopter in the market.
We were just killing the competition with breaking news.
The helicopters really changed everything. In a state this big, you really need to have it.
I actually did the first live shot from a helicopter for the market.
Central Avenue Bridge here in Albuquerque, which you are now seeing live from Sky 7.
Just to say we were first. But yes, I was first from a live shot from Sky 7.
So many advancements happening at KOAT at that time.
And Joe, you were there.
That's right. That's when I started at KOAT doing weather and feature reporting. Through the 80s, I did quite a few stories looking at new tech of the time. Let's take a look at how some of that influenced devices we use today.
This month, Seiko unveiled its new line of fall watches. This one is a training watch designed for the serious runner.
Do these watches loaded with extra tech remind you of something?
Right now it shows great potential for future technology.
In 1983, I did a story on a TV watch. Years ahead of its time, you can see it took some effort to get it going and cost a whopping $600. Today, a smartwatch does all of this and more for half that.
So all of a sudden you can have the high quality VCR and a high quality big screen projection system, hook all of this equipment right up to your existing home stereo system, and truly have a totally home entertainment system in your house.
Home theater systems, a new concept in 1984. Interesting to see the large TVs and surround sound.
It's predicted that in the future, people will be using home computers to do everything from ordering groceries to paying your monthly bills or making plane reservations. But all of this will take time.
And who could forget the first home computers? Very different and a whole lot bigger than what we have today. Tech advancement like these all leading up to the internet age. Next, we look at the 90s.
We're with you, KOAT's with you. We're with you on TV7. With you for fantasy, with you for laughter, with you to share your dreams and all that you're after. We're with you, KOAT's with you. We're with you on TV7. We're with you on TV7.
Advancements in video games to the creation of boy bands, even the Macarena dance craze.
Probably the most memorable moment of the 90s, though, the rising popularity of the internet. From dial-up modems, putting America online, connecting people to a worldwide web of information, changing the way we gather news.
You had to, and with a two-finger typist, you had to pound the typewriters pretty hard. They were special typewriters, but they were still, you had to do it. So I still have fingers that are bent like this today from pounding those typewriters. When we came into the era of the internet, everything changed and everything was digitized and we had it all in there. It changed our ability to put stories in context, to have quick access to information.
It also gave more people places to get news.
It was also a challenging time because we were dealing with the rise of the cable news networks. And in those days, they were news. They were news. They weren't what they evolved into.
While this competition presented a challenge for local news, it created an opportunity to strengthen our connection to the community.
Coats for Kids will always be near and dear to my heart. I started that, and over the years, many children have had warm coats thanks to that.
We developed a new series of stories, giving resources to young parents called New Mexico Children First.
It was sort of like the social media moms club before social media was around. It was a way to connect with other families in New Mexico and deal with the issues that they were concerned about and use a powerful tool to reach them. We got a National Association of Broadcasters Award in 1997.
And encouraged us to better understand the people of our great state.
We had a lot of fun running around the state and celebrating New Mexico. So we were able to point out this community and this state park and this whatever that was special. Sometimes it wasn't particularly special at all, but it was what people were proud of, and that itself made it special.
People like you are what makes our team so successful.
It was absolutely, KOAT was the dominant #1 in the market.
We were loosely called the Magnificent Seven.
KOAT 7 Albuquerque, New Mexico's news leader.
That team bringing you stories that would define the time. Christmas Eve, 1992. A wrong-way ride up I-40 ended with this horrific head-on crash.
My husband and I were working that Christmas Eve, he as a reporter and I as an anchor, and I was 5 months pregnant, and he got sent out to cover the accident.
Gordon House admitted to drinking several beers before slamming into the car, killing Melanie Cravens and her 3 children and injuring her husband, Paul.
I stayed in the live truck and he went out to the scene and he came back and he was just ashened and he said, just don't even look over there, you won't be able to handle it. So it's how news actually does impact you sometimes, because this was a mother and 3 little girls and their stepdad on their way to their grandma's house on Christmas Eve. And I just put myself now in their place.
At the time, New Mexico had the highest DWI rates in the country.
What was amazing about it, though, was the grandmother, Nadine Milford. She spent the next 20 years at least trying to harden the rules, the laws against drunk driving so that this wouldn't happen to another family.
March 3rd, 1996.
Each decade has its own sort of signature crime, which changes the way people look at not only their community, but at the world. And this was the case that did that to this community in the 90s.
3 employees working into the morning hours thought nothing of it when Esther Beckley and Shane Harrison walked into this Northeast Albuquerque Hollywood video store. They tied up the employees, threw them in a storage room, and Beckley claims Harrison executed them. The next morning, their bodies were discovered.
The Hollywood Video Murders was a tragic story that captivated New Mexico interest for many years. It was a murder of 5 people, 2 teenagers, a young woman who was their manager at a video store, and the grandparents of one of the teenagers who was waiting in the parking lot to pick them up after work.
Those grandparents were kidnapped and taken to the East Mountains, where they were also murdered. Their bodies found days later huddled together, shot repeatedly.
Nobody was supposed to get hurt. What happened? I didn't know that Shane had been smoking crack all day long, and he's a paranoid schizophrenic, and he hadn't been taking his medication for that, and he just flipped. He just, I don't know what caused him to I don't know.
Former anchor Diane Anderson interviewed Beckley in prison.
I felt like I needed to hit the balance between holding her accountable for committing one of the most awful, heinous crimes in New Mexico history, but also trying to get a look inside what happened, why it happened, and to answer some of the questions that all of us, I think, wanted to know. How could you do this?
Over a man, because of a man, and the one that made all the money off of me.
Beckley says she and Shane Harrison planned to rob the store to get money and to impress her lover.
And so he eventually was the one who turned them in, and how they found them, and got the reward money. She was an abuse victim who made a lot of terrible choices in her life and was used by a lot of men in her life, and she opened up and talked about that on camera and took responsibility for her part in the murders.
Why did you plead guilty?
So I am. I didn't stop him. I couldn't stop him. I failed to save those people's lives. There was nothing supposed to happen to them.
March 22nd, 1999. A woman kidnapped and held as a sex slave managed to escape. She was discovered naked by neighbors before getting help from police. Her captor, David Parker Ray, was arrested. Police searched his Elephant Butte home and found a trailer next to it, a torture chamber Ray called his toy box, filled with handcuffs, chains, knives, and surgical items. He was convicted of kidnapping and sexual assault in 2001. Investigators say Ray bragged there were more victims and agreed to tell police. He backed out of the deal and died in prison in 2002. Just months into his 223-year sentence. As the 90s drew to a close, a mysterious fear linked to our own technology began to grip the world.
I remember the last story of the 90s was Y2K. And what a flop that turned out to be. We didn't know what it was going to do. You know, there were all kinds of predictions that, oh, everything is going to shut down around the world and we wouldn't be able to do anything. And
Y2K hysteria aside, the 1990s also brought its own era-defining moments in pop culture. One of the most memorable, a hard-to-miss haircut coming right from one of the sitcoms that would define the era.
Do you remember from Friends? I had a variation of the Rachel, and I thought it was probably my favorite. I really enjoyed my time at KOAT because I worked with such an amazing group of people. To be on the air with Dick and Nelson and Howard and Joe and Doug, and to be there through those years and to grow up, let my children grow up as a part of that. It was very much a part of my life, and I'm glad to have that opportunity.
One thing we all love covering each year, Balloon Fiesta.
Ballooning has been a big part of our community almost as long as KOAT has been around.
We have covered every aspect from the birth of the fiesta to local pioneers setting records around the world. August 1978, after 6 days of enduring near 0-degree temperatures, Ben Abruzzo, Larry Newman, and Maxie Anderson made history, becoming the first to cross the Atlantic in a balloon. Anderson set another record in 1980 when he became the first to cross the North American continent, flying from San Francisco to Quebec, Canada in less than 100 hours. By 1981,
strong surface winds, heavy rain, and zero visibility forced the Double Eagle 5 to make a very hard landing here.
A record-setting 5,208-mile flight across the Pacific Ocean. Joe Diaz was there. Look at him jumping from a helicopter to get the first interview with the crew.
How's it feel to make history?
That feels very good.
Balloon Fiesta has grown to be a staple of our community for 50 years, and KOAT has been bringing you the beautiful sights since the beginning.
I think I was one of the first reporters to go up with a camera and a hot air balloon, and that's when they were launching them out of the state fairgrounds. This city was going crazy for balloons back in the early 70s.
As Fiesta grew and changed locations, our coverage would expand too, including live shows from Balloon Fiesta.
It's gorgeous out here, and the atmosphere is just a-sizzling.
Joe Diaz has covered the balloons for decades.
Why is it that we can't find the Roadrunner balloon right now?
Covering races. Even being part of a chase crew. Balloon Fiesta, no doubt a memorable event for anyone who attends, even those who were exposed to it through their work at KOAT.
All of our team members are out here to bring you the best show around.
I love the balloons. I love the atmosphere.
Certainly over the years, I've watched the Balloon Fiesta go from very few balloons to this major international event. And so that has to be such a proud moment for New Mexico year after year after year. And to see it from its infancy to this huge event, I think makes all of us proud.
I covered weddings that people were exchanging their wedding vows as they were lifting off in a balloon.
Covering people's stories out at Fiesta Park was always a delight. It was always a treat.
While it's loads of fun, Balloon Fiesta also creates some tense moments.
When the Smokey Bear balloon hit the radio tower and kind of just completely lost all of its air, and there was a pilot and two young kids, I think they were 9 and 11, who had to climb down that 280-foot tower. That was kind of a scary moment, but they all made it down safely to the bottom.
Many making their way back to experience the festivities each year.
I've taken my children, I've got 3 children and my husband, and I made sure to go for the 50th celebration of Fiesta.
We consider ourselves very lucky to share our coverage at Balloon Fiesta with you every year.
Balloon Fiesta, memorable in so many ways.
As we enter a new millennium, we all experience some of the most unimaginable events in history.
It's surreal. It's like, could this even possibly be true?
From an attack on our nation.
The unthinkable happened. The town was burning up.
To a wildfire too close for comfort. The year 2000 started with a sigh of relief for some, as all the worry surrounding Y2K had been for nothing.
But as we entered a new millennium, big stories began impacting our communities.
This is Action 7 News.
As the summer of 2000 began,
the worst fears for residents of Los Alamos has come true. Orders to evacuate the entire town. The Cerro Grande fire started as a prescribed burn in the nearby Bandelier National Monument, and a week later, an inferno threatening the town of Los Alamos.
It was happening before all of our eyes. We were all experiencing it together.
25% of all of the homes in Los Alamos are now on fire.
Tragedy struck northern New Mexico.
So many people lost their homes. It was devastating.
The Cerro Grande fire in Los Alamos tearing through the community.
Sky 7 was up covering, taking pictures of the fire as it spread, and people were calling in and telling us, that's my neighbor's house or that's my cousin's house. And it was the most real type coverage of a news story at that time.
Well, the images that I remember from Cerro Grande are just devastation. People's homes going up in flames right before our eyes. People suffering, people being devastated. I had never seen anything like that.
The fire on the verge of erasing the historic town.
It was roaring. Despite the battle from hundreds of firefighters, they could not stop the Cerro Grande fire from swallowing up homes tonight.
It was the National Lab right there, and that brought about concerns, like what's out there that could be burned? What is that really going to affect our atmosphere? Is it really, how does this happen?
It was a very new to us in New Mexico to see a fire just engulf about a third of a city.
I also remember people being grateful for their lives and teaching me something. While the stuff is important and the stuff matters, human lives matter the most.
We were really connecting with our audience, and they were reporting the news along with us. We were asking questions, and we were guiding and trying to direct to say, this looks like it's headed toward this school or this home, and what information do you have? And we were engaging them in a way that now is done through social media, but was not done back then. Audience became a complete part of how we were covering the news.
The fire lasted weeks. When it was finally put out, 400 homes and 11 structures at Los Alamos National Lab were destroyed. The U.S. government estimated the fire did about $1 billion in damage.
Move it! Come on!
Right in front of me, everything just went boom. 2 airplanes have attacked apparently.
Over there, they're jumping out the windows, I guess because they're trying to save themselves. I don't know.
September 11th, 2001, our country attacked. Nearly 3,000 people were killed that day, 343 of them brave firefighters who risked their lives to save others.
When the Twin Towers got hit, I'm sure it's etched in everybody's mind, and you see the first one, and everybody's turning the TV on, and then when the second one happens, it's surreal. It's like, could this even possibly be true? So, of course, everybody, it was all hands on deck at the station, and I think everybody was really kind of numb.
Even at such an unprecedented time in our nation's history, our team continued working while the major networks were in wall-to-wall coverage.
We were busy gathering the stories, but they didn't get on the air for a couple of days because the networks, had control of the airwaves.
We found out that Al Marchand of Alamogordo was a flight attendant on one of the planes that hit the Twin Towers.
Joining us now live from Alamogordo is his wife, Becky.
I reached out to his wife and asked her if she felt comfortable talking about her loss and sharing it with New Mexico, and she did, because I think we all came together during that time.
He had actually shared with you what he would do if his plane went down. What did he tell you?
If there's one person that I can help get to heaven, then I have done my job on earth.
Patriotism shined all over the country in ways it had not been shown in decades.
USA! USA!
Everyone proud to be an American, and New Mexicans proud to help where they could, heading to the World Trade Center to assist with medical needs of recovery workers, and to the Pentagon to search for remains, personal belongings, and classified materials.
We're looking at ashes that came down in New York, and yet we're having a tower go up which shows from those ashes there's always life.
The people of Sacred Heart Church in Borellis worked to transform the twisted pieces of steel into a symbol of strength, hope, and remembrance. As the country would begin healing in the years following 9/11, New Mexico would see a change in leadership. Bill Richardson was elected governor in 2002, cutting taxes during his first term and bringing dozens of film productions to our state. He served 2 terms, while at the same time, he made a failed attempt at a presidential run.
It's going to put southern New Mexico on the map.
Richardson also responsible for bringing the space industry to our state. In 2009, Spaceport America broke ground. While several rocket tests were conducted, it would take another decade before Virgin Galactic would launch their first commercial spaceflight from the spaceport. The decade also saw unforgettable crimes. 2004, Cody Posey confessed to killing his father, stepmother, and stepsister, then tried to hide the bodies in a pile of manure. Newsman Sam Donaldson discovered the scene at his Hondo Ranch. The boy claimed he had been abused and was sentenced as a juvenile and was released on his 21st birthday. August 18, 2005, once called the saddest day in the history of Albuquerque. John Hyde is accused of going on a rampage, killing 5 people within 16 hours, the last 2 of them police officers. Since the killings, Hyde has been committed to a mental institution. Every 2 years there's a review of his mental status. And February 2009, a gruesome discovery in southwest Albuquerque. Christine Ross was walking her dog Ruka when he found a large femur bone. After police determined it was human, what was once an empty desert became a massive crime scene. In all, 11 bodies and an unborn child were found. While there are and have been suspects, the case remains unsolved.
From school shootings to police reform, crime would continue to make headlines in the 2010s.
Stories from our southern border covered nationwide.
The wall that splits Columbus and Mexico is massive.
The COVID-19 pandemic changing almost every aspect of our day-to-day lives.
New restrictions go into effect.
The race for a vaccine and the challenges faced as we continue working to keep you safe and informed. Time names Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg Man of the Year as social media increases in popularity.
The first picture was uploaded to Instagram, and Apple unveils its iPad.
While these advancements of the 2010s are celebrated, the decade saw an increase in gun violence and school shootings nationwide, and here in New Mexico. 2014, Berendo Middle School in Roswell, 2 students shot and injured. 2017, Aztec High, 2 students killed. 2019, Visu Cleveland in Rio Rancho, a student brought a gun to school, planning to shoot several students. The gun misfired. Fortunately, no one was hurt. 3 school shootings spanning the decade, but the violence wouldn't stop there. On July 12, 2010, Robert Reza entered an office building, shooting his girlfriend and several other workers in cold blood. 2 employees died before Reza turned the gun on himself. The shooting reminded local businesses of potential dangers, inspiring local police to train them for the worst. In 2011, New Mexico making national headlines again for guns, this time involving smuggling.
Pretty much half the town of Columbus. They arrested the mayor, they arrested the police chief, they arrested the equivalent of a city councilor and a slew of their family members, all for running guns to the cartels. And I was on that story for a couple of weeks.
Officials say they were responsible for shipping nearly 200 guns to Mexican drug cartels.
Ultimately is one of the core reasons why I got the job at ABC and ABC News, because they followed that story as the story progressed. And this is something that doesn't just happen in New Mexico, but all across the border.
The decade also saw events sparking police reform across the United States, even here in Albuquerque. In 2014, James Boyd was shot and killed by 2 Albuquerque police officers while camping in the foothills. Body cam video shows the officers approaching him using a flashbang and a police dog. That's when officers say Boyd pulled out 2 knives and they opened fire. The shooting sparked outrage, leading to a violent protest lasting 23 hours, police using tear gas to control the crowd, the Department of Justice stepping in, putting APD on a court-mandated path to reform. In northern New Mexico, the town of Los Alamos again threatened by a fire in 2011.
And we were sent there, and it was really the first fire of any consequence that I covered, and we got onto the front line.
For 36 days, the Las Conchas fire burned more than 156,000 acres. It started after a tree fell on a power line.
And covering that story gave me such good experience for what I do now, because we cover wildfires all the time, all across the western United States. Even in Hawaii, I was just in Lahaina. And so every time I cover a fire, I think back to the first one that I covered at KOAT.
At the time, the Las Conchas fire was the largest one in state history. That record now passed by the Hermit's Peak Calf Canyon fire. The decade also saw progress. In 2013, same-sex marriage became legal in New Mexico, sending hundreds of couples into clerks' offices to get a license to seal their bond. By 2015, the Supreme Court ruled same-sex marriage could not be banned anywhere in the U.S. Another moment marked in history. October 2012, Felix Baumgartner became the first person to break the sound barrier in free fall near Roswell, traveling at 843 miles per hour. Baumgartner jumped from the world's largest balloon at almost 128,000 feet. He set 8 records, still holding most of them today.
Nobody is going to accidentally stumble on that treasure chest. They're going to have to figure out the clues and let the clues take them to that spot.
A decade-long treasure hunt got its start in 2010. Santa Fe art and antiques dealer Forrest Fenn buried more than $1 million in gold, emeralds, and diamonds. He left clues in a poem, sending about 350,000 people around the world searching. At least 5 people died while looking for it. In 2020, Fenn announced the treasure was found in Wyoming. Local politics saw a change at the start of the decade when Susana Martinez was elected the first Hispanic female governor in the history of the United States, as well as the first female governor of New Mexico. The decade would end with another change in leadership when Michelle Lujan Grisham was elected governor. She would soon be faced with leading the state through a worldwide pandemic. The COVID-19 pandemic gripping the world.
Halting day-to-day life, even interrupting the way we brought you the news.
Happening now, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention are screening passengers at 3 airports for symptoms of a mysterious new virus.
December 2019, the first hospital patients in China started to experience COVID symptoms. At the time, it was called a pneumonia-like illness. The next month, the CDC reported the first confirmed case of COVID in the U.S., in Washington.
Officials trying to figure out if a public emergency is needed after more than 400 people get infected with the coronavirus.
About 2 months later, states across the U.S. started locking down, including New Mexico.
The governor has declared the coronavirus a public health emergency now.
People rushed to get the necessary supplies while case numbers and hospitalizations continued to grow.
We are ready to roll out this vaccine without delay.
Now, a rush to create a COVID-19 vaccine. Also, businesses adapted. Restaurants only allowing carry-out orders for a time before welcoming people back in limited numbers. Our coverage adapted too, many of us working from home as we continue to keep you up to date with the changing healthcare guidelines. At the end of 2020, the first shipment of vaccinations arrived in New Mexico. And in the fall of 2021, the FDA approved the shot. 2 years into the pandemic, New Mexico reached its highest 7-day average of reported cases, 7,668.
If we are still fighting after the hits we took in 2020, and we are, then there is nothing that can beat us.
In total, more than 600,000 cases have been reported, and sadly, more than 9,000 people died in our state from the virus. It was a time that reinforced the importance and need for local news.
When it was important for us to let you know what you needed to keep yourself safe.
Overall, it reminded us why we are here and why local journalism is important.
And that question, what is the meaning of journalism? Something deeply valued by everyone through the KOAT 7 decades.
I think it's just crucial to everything, but journalism has to find out what's going on and put it on the air and get it covered.
This news business is not very complicated. Something happens, we go see what happened, and we tell you what happened.
Sometimes it's the only connection between the masses. We need freewheeling journalists to find out what's really going on.
I think our role in society is to be trusted, that you can turn to us and that we will tell you to the best of our ability what actually is going on.
The opportunity to make a difference in your community, to affect people that you interact with every day.
We probe, we investigate, we reveal, we expose, we hold people accountable.
Journalism is the one that'll save this country.
As journalists, we carry a big responsibility, and that is to make sure that we tell the truth. We are truth tellers.
That's why you get into it, because you want to tell people's stories, people who can't speak for themselves.
Local journalism drills down to ask the questions you want answered. Thank you for welcoming us into your homes for 70 years. Thank you for trusting us to bring you news that impacts your life. And thank you for supporting our community through our initiatives like Coats for Kids, our school supply drives, and your donations to help others in times of need. It has been an honor to serve you, New Mexico, for 70 years, and we're greatly looking forward to the next 70 years.